It's grown in popularity. In fact, according to the Society for Assisted Reproductive Technology, there's been a 46% increase in egg freezing procedures in the United States. That was back from 2020 to 2021. And because of the growing interest, Allure released a project focused on egg freezing. They sat down with 26 women to discuss the ins and outs of the process. Joining us now on this is Jenny Biley. She's the executive beauty director at Allure, and also Dr. Lucky Sekhon, a double board certified reproductive endocrinologist and OBGYN at RMA of New York. Good morning to both of you. Thank you very much for joining us today. Jenny, I will start with you. This is such an important topic, and I just love the fact that Allure did this and you spoke with 26 women about the egg freezing process, really try to capture how women are really feeling about this, kind of all over the spectrum. I also really liked it. It wasn't just positive, it wasn't just negative. Tell us what they had to say.
Sure. Well, this story was written by Paige Stables, who's one of our senior editors, who herself froze her eggs several years ago after a cancer diagnosis. And she really felt like, as someone who had been through it, as it becomes more mainstream, women just needed more information about what the process is really like. And a common thread that we saw, as you said, that's a wide variety of stories, but a common thread was that a lot of women felt like, despite all the talk and the TikTok videos, they went into the process feeling underinformed, or in some cases, they said they felt misled into thinking it would be easier or more successful or more of a guarantee than it is. I think something we heard again and again in our reporting was an egg is not an embryo, is not a baby. And I think people didn't totally realize that as they started out.
Oh, it's such a good point, and something that I want to ask the doctor about in just a moment. But quickly, Jenny, also, did you hear from women about why we're seeing more and more of them take advantage of this option?
Yes, there were different reasons. Some came to it after a life-changing diagnosis like Paige did, some after a life-changing breakup, some we talked to actually more than one doctor who had really spent their 20s and early 30s in, it's at school, residency, just hadn't had a chance really to start a family. And a lot of it, honestly, is just women who are not finding partners in that kind of peak fertile window. I think I saw a headline recently, why aren't more people getting married, and ask women what it's like dating. So I think that lack of a partner is a big part of it.
Absolutely. Doctor, let's bring you in here to first just talk through the process. I know if you, as Jenny mentioned, see on TikTok and things like that, the different videos and you see the shots and all that kind of stuff. But what is it exactly that's going on, and how invasive is it?
Yes. So egg freezing is basically removing the eggs from the ovaries where they sit from the time that you're in your mother's womb. You're born with all the eggs that you're ever going to have. And over time, our bodies lack the ability to generate new eggs or repair them. So they break down, and quantity and quality decline with age. So egg freezing is the process by which you take medications that mimic the signal your brain normally sends to the ovaries to mature one egg and ovulate a single egg, but we're trying to mature all of the eggs that are available. Now, a common misconception is that we're depleting your egg count, but we're not. A lot of people don't know this, but a very limited subset of your eggs at any given moment are pulled to the surface of the ovary, and those are the only ones that I can get to. And if I don't get to them and extract them and freeze them, they're just kind of dissolving and going away. So egg freezing is kind of like salvaging whatever eggs we can get to in a given cycle, removing them from this environment where they're exposed to the effects of aging and degradation over time, and freezing them so that you're holding on to a larger cohort of eggs that are healthier from a younger age as a backup plan. If and should you ever run into any fertility issues or need IVF for any reason, you can get a head start and have a much more efficient process starting with a larger number of healthier eggs.
Jenny just mentioned that many women brought up the fact an egg is not an embryo, an embryo is not a baby. So first of all, if we could just kind of break that down in layman's terms. But I think even me, okay, I'm a 32-year-old woman, I don't have kids, I have not done this procedure, I've thought about this a lot. I think even in the last, I don't know, 5-6 years since it's been something that I have thought about, since I've heard a lot about, in the beginning, it felt like it was presented very much as a sure thing, like an insurance policy. You don't know if when you want to have kids, just raise your eggs and then it's all good. But the truth is you might go through this process that is A, expensive, and B, not nothing on your body. And it's ultimately not going to lead to a baby, right? And I do think people need to understand that.
I think saying insurance policy is a misnomer. I think it's giving you a head start if and should you need IVF. I think egg freezing does get a bad rap, and I see all the headlines, and I can't speak for everyone's counseling, but I know when I speak to patients, I take almost a full hour to talk about human reproduction, the reality of how inefficient it is, and you need to know that in order to level set expectations about egg freezing. When you ovulate one egg every month, if you're someone that gets a regular period, there's about a 15% chance that that could result in a pregnancy. And even if you're in your 20s, it might be about 20%. And that's because not every egg and sperm are going to actually get together and fertilize successfully. Not every fertilized egg turns into an embryo, and not every embryo is genetically normal and capable of implanting. And just because you freeze a larger cohort of eggs, not just one, that inefficiency of human reproduction doesn't go away. So a lot of people just lack that baseline knowledge about what it means to try to get pregnant, and knowing that egg freezing isn't a magical fix for that inefficiency. So you do need to start out with more eggs than you think, because not every egg is going to thaw, fertilize, turn into an embryo, and actually implant. And so counseling about those numbers, which depend on your age and your presumed egg quality and how many eggs you start with, is really important.
Yeah, and Jenny, that leads me to my last question, which is talking about what it costs and making sure women are aware of that, especially if they may have to do multiple rounds. We only have a few moments, but just walk us through what that looks like.
There's more and more companies are offering insurance coverage for egg freezing, which is great, but most still don't. And it'll run you about $10,000 to $15,000, according to our reporting, for one cycle. But something that I don't think everyone realizes is this is also an ongoing expense. You have to pay to store your eggs. The women we spoke to were paying anywhere from $500 to $2,000 a year to store their eggs. And then obviously, as Dr. Sekhon said, if you do thaw them and use them, then you're entering the IVF process, which is also known for its high price tag. So it's something to budget for really over time if you decide to do it.
Plan for it, absolutely. Jenny Biley, Dr. Lucky Sekhon, thank you both so much. Really important conversation. We should keep doing this. We appreciate you coming.
Thank you so much.
Coming up.